Hey y'all, it's Brittany and welcome back to another episode of Snapped in Skincare, also known as Clean Skin Dirty Deeds. This week we will be talking all about Brenda Andrew and all the mess that came with her. So if you want to get this skin together like I need to get this skin together and hear a juicy story this week, stay tuned. Now, as always, we show gratitude over here on this channel. So for all of you who have subscribed, liked, engaged in any of my content, thank you so much for staying around. Thank you for being here and supporting. For those of you who are just finding my channel, hey sis, hey sir, grab your skincare, grab whatever it is that you need to take care of self for the next few minutes, sit down and stay a while and enjoy. Also, make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell because you do not want to miss any content that I have coming your way. But let's get into this week's story. Now, Brenda Andrew was born Brenda Evers, and she was born on December 16th of 1963. She was born in Enid, Oklahoma to a family that was devout Lutheran, lived and died by their Bible, by the church, by everything that was holy and right. Now, Brenda herself was said to be also very religious. Obviously, that is the home and environment that she grew up in. But when she was not with family and not around her church, she was also said to be, you know, a little flirtatious, very sultry, and of course, she was a beautiful girl. So she drew the attention of a lot of men. And there was one man in particular that she drew the attention of, and that was 21-year-old Robert Andrew. Now, Rob was also from Enid, Oklahoma, and he was also a devout Christian as well. He was said to have been very smart, and he was a very attractive man himself. Now, they began dating, and very shortly after, they became inseparable, attached at the hip, so much so that they both went to college together, and a few months before they both graduated, they got married. Now, shortly after they got married, they moved to Oklahoma City together, and Rob got a job at a very well-known advertising firm while Brenda went to work as a personal banker at the Bank of Oklahoma. Then in 1990, Brenda had their first child, their daughter, and at that point, they decided that it would be best if she became a stay-at-home mom and focused on the family. And then shortly after, they had their son as well. And this was something that they could do, that their family could support, because Rob's job was very lucrative. He was doing very well for himself and his family. And they were able to buy a very nice, very big house in the suburb of Lansbrook. Now, while Rob was working, Brenda was doing things like driving carpool for the church community. She was very involved with North Point Baptist Church, which was their home church. She was also doing, you know, bake sales and those types of things to support the community and the church and the children within. Brenda also became a Sunday school teacher. Being a Sunday school teacher meant that she got to meet more people within the community, also her fellow Sunday school teachers. So one of the people that she met was James Pavat, who was 47 years old at the time, and he was also another Sunday school teacher at North Point Baptist. Outside of being a Sunday school teacher, he was also an insurance agent, and he was married, and both him and his wife attended the church. But shortly after joining the church, James and his wife filed for divorce in September of 2001. And because Brenda and James had become so close, she was pretty much his shoulder to cry on when he was going through this whole divorce process. It was painful for him. So they would do things like meet up for lunch and coffee and just talk about life and talk about what was going on with him. And it really helped him to get through his divorce process. But they ended up being much closer because of that. Now, being good friends with Brenda also allowed for him to be good friends with Rob. So Rob would invite him over for dinner and they would hang out and just do things together as normal friends would. Child, they even prayed together. Now, of course, about a month after this, in October of 2001, Brenda started to feel like her marriage was falling apart with Rob. and eventually they agreed to separate. Now, while Rob thought that the separation was going to be temporary, he still decided, you know, I'll give you space. I still want to be close to my kids and my family and to my wife because we're just gonna get back together, according to Rob. But he got an apartment really close to his family. Now, Brenda was struggling with the divorce herself, and it was basically James's turn to be her shoulder to cry on while she went through her whole process of the demise of her relationship, potentially. But instead of just being a shoulder to cry on, it started to evolve into, you know, more and more of a romantic feeling between James and Brenda. According to Brenda, she felt like James was the complete opposite of Rob, and she really loved that about him. So the Sunday school teacher started to dress more provocatively at Sunday school. Basically, anytime she was around James when they went to meet for lunch or coffee, she had on a different set of clothes at this point. Whole vibe was different. Now, as the divorce proceedings continued, so did Brenda's relationship with James, and it started to turn sexual. So they started to have an affair. You know, technically she was still married to Rob, but at this point they were pretty sure they were gonna get divorced, at least on Brenda's end. And Brenda wanted the house, she wanted primary custody of the kids, and Rob just wanted to give his wife whatever she wanted to make her happy. So he didn't like it, but he agreed to those terms. Now, fast forward a month later to November 20th of 2001. Police receive a phone call from a woman, and this woman is Brenda Andrew. And what she says is that her husband has been shot and he's bleeding profusely on the ground, and she's also been shot as well. She thinks it's a home invasion. She doesn't know what's going on, but she said there were some masked men that approached and came into the home and shot them both. When police arrive, they find the woman, Brenda, and she has been shot, and she's been shot in the arm. They also find a man who's laying on the ground in the garage in a pool of blood near the woman, and he's been shot with what looks like a shotgun. It doesn't look good for him. Meanwhile, as they enter the home, they do find their children in the home with the TV on, and the TV is turned up very loud. Unfortunately, the man does not survive, and that man is Rob Andrew. Brenda is rushed to the hospital, and they find that her injuries are superficial. Police finally talk to Brenda, and her story goes as such. She said that it was about 6 o'clock, and Rob was coming over to pick up the kids for Thanksgiving. And she said she met him in the garage, and she met him in the garage because something funky was going on with the furnace, and she wanted him to take a look at the furnace before leaving with the kids. So she asked him to look at the furnace, and as he turned around to take a look at it, 2 masked men enter the garage and they shoot Rob with a shotgun. Once this happened, Brenda says that she turns to run into the house, and as she turns to run, a man pulls out another gun and shoots her in the arm as she enters inside the home. She then says she was able to stumble inside and get to her kids and make sure that they were okay. And once she figured out that they were, she tried to go out and enter the garage again to check on Rob to see if he was okay. When she went back into the garage, the masked men were gone. So she tried to stop Rob's bleeding, but unfortunately he was too far gone by that point. So police, they go back and they search the house. They find out that there is nothing missing in the home. It doesn't seem like the home's been run through, ransacked, or anything. So it doesn't look like the motive is robbery. So the only other motive that they can assume at this point is some sort of personal motive, some sort of personal vendetta against either Rob or Brenda. Police also go and talk to friends of the Andrews as well. And what they find out is more than they bargained for about Brenda and her extramarital affairs. They find out that there's been rumors circulating around the church for months now about Brenda having an inappropriate relationship with James Pavat. They also find out that Brenda was going around saying that she was having this affair well before her and Rob had even decided to separate, let alone get divorced. And she said it was so bad, and she knew it was bad and against her beliefs, but she just couldn't stop because, girl, it was so good. Now, apparently Rob had also heard the rumors about her and James having an affair, and he confronted Brenda, but Brenda always reassured Rob that there was nothing going on, there was nothing for him to be worried about. But police continue to dig, and what they find is that There is an insurance policy, a life insurance policy that was taken out on the life of Rob Andrew. And who was the sole beneficiary? Brenda Andrew. Who sold that life insurance policy worth $800,000? James Pavad. So before even going back to Brenda and asking her or asking James any questions about this, police get smart. They reach out to the insurance company themselves to see if there's any more information that they can gather before going back and speaking with Brenda or James. What they find out is scalding of the most scalding tea. What they find out is about 3 weeks before any of this had taken place, Rob had gotten a call from supposedly a hospital worker saying that his wife Brenda had been in a car accident. The kids were with her when the car accident took place, so he needed to come to the hospital and he needed to come get his kids while his wife was being treated. He leaves to go to the hospital to go get his children, and something is funky with his car. Something is not working, so instead of continuing on his path to go to the hospital, he beelines it to the dealership to see what's going on with his car. He wants to be safe. So he wants to make sure before he puts his kids in his car that it's working properly. He gets to the dealership and the mechanic says, bruh, somebody cut your brake lines. Like, this is not just a normal malfunction. Somebody clean cut your brake lines. On top of that, he calls the hospital and finds out that Brenda was never in the hospital in the first place. So all of that just spells conspiracy to him. Somebody was trying to set him up, take his life, with this lie. Now, why does the insurance company know all of this tea? Because immediately after this, Rob calls them and says, I think my wife just tried to kill me. So can we take her name off of my insurance policy? I would like to change it to my children. He tried, but unfortunately he had to go through the person who sold him the policy, and that person was James Pavad. So he thinks, okay, let me contact a friend, James, and he asked James to update the beneficiaries on his insurance policy. He wants to change it from Brenda to his 2 children. James says, no, bro, that's not possible. No way. Brenda owns that policy, so you can't change it. She has to change it. And Rob said, no, absolutely not. This is a life insurance policy on my life. So let me speak to your supervisor. So he finally got a hold of James's supervisor, who allowed him to change the beneficiaries to his 2 children and removed Brenda from the policy. But wait, there's more. Apparently, once police got a hold of this insurance policy, the children's names were no longer down as beneficiary. It had been changed back to Brenda Andrew. And apparently, James Pavad made the change and forged Rob's signature. Once Rob's funeral rolls around, most people were there, friends, family, all the loved ones were there. All of the loved ones except for Brenda and Rob and Brenda's children or their dear old friend, James Pavad. None of them were in attendance for the funeral. Police tried to call, police tried to reach them by snail mail, by showing up at the door. No one could find James Pavad, no one could find Brenda Andrew, and no one could find the Andrew children. They were on the run at this point. Now, on February 28th of 2002 in Hidalgo, Texas, there was a border patrolman doing a routine check. There was a family coming back across the border from Mexico, and he was just doing a routine check, checking the car as they crossed back over into the United States. And he recognized them immediately because of the children mostly, but he recognized them nonetheless as Brenda Andrew, the Andrew children, and James Pavad. Now, apparently they were on the run in Mexico, where they lived in rundown motels and ran out of money after 3 months and needed to come back to the US. So immediately they were arrested by the FBI and returned back to Oklahoma. James Pavad was first to go to trial, and his trial started on August 25th of 2003. Now, according to the prosecution, basically what they said was James and Brenda lured Rob to the garage with the children, and also with the claim that there was something going on with the furnace that needed to be checked. According to the prosecution, they had been planning this for months. The goal was to get that payout from the life insurance policy and start a new life. But according to James's defense team, he was guilty of nothing more than having an affair with Brenda Andrew and maybe helping her run and hide after the fact. But he was not involved in anything that happened with taking the life of Rob Andrew. However, the prosecution had a surprise witness. James's daughter, Jana Larson, testified against her father. What she told the court was that her father told her that Brenda had straight up asked him to help get rid of her husband. She also testified that on the day of the actual shooting, her father, James, took her car and said, "Oh, I'm going to go get some work done on it." And it was a surprise kind of thing because it wasn't mentioned at any point before that day. So when he returned, there was no work done on the car whatsoever, which she found strange. And what she found even more strange was the fact that there were 22 shell casings on the floorboard in her car. Now that was the same size bullet that was found in the arm of Brenda Andrew. Now needless to say, James was convicted of first-degree murder and it was in the state of Oklahoma, so he was sentenced to death. His execution date has been set. His execution was overturned, it was reinstated, and he has exhausted all of his appeals. So his date for execution is now July 11th of 2024. Brenda's trial began 10 months later. The prosecution said that Brenda wanted to keep her lifestyle and her children, but she didn't want to keep her husband. So when she found James Pavatt, she felt like she had the perfect puppet that she could manipulate to do whatever she wanted to, including get rid of her husband. They also put forth that her first attempt to get rid of her husband, which was cutting his brake lines and then making that false call to him about his wife and children being at the hospital, that failed, but that was their first attempt to get rid of him. Prosecutors claim that James did shoot Rob first and he shot him in the stomach, but that didn't take Rob's life. And they also felt like James probably got scared and didn't want to do anything else in this process. So Brenda took the gun and then shot him a second time in his neck to make sure that he was deceased. After that, prosecutors also put forth that there was blood spatter on her pant leg to prove that she shot that shotgun. Prosecutors also said that there was scientific evidence that supported that Brenda shot herself in her arm. And the evidence that they said supported that theory was that there was burn patterns on her actual clothes, which you only see when there's a close shot taken. So you definitely wouldn't see that if she was running away in a doorway and they shot her in her arm. They also say that Brenda made sure that her children couldn't hear what was happening in the garage by turning up the TV really, really, really loud, way louder than it needed to be for her children to watch television while all of this commotion was happening. They also said that Brenda had taken out a life insurance policy not only on her husband, Rob Andrew, but she had also taken out a life insurance policy on James Pavatt worth $500,000. And she was the sole beneficiary. To me and to prosecutors, it sounded like she was already plotting her next payday before she even got the first one. Now, an even more strange aspect to this story is that Brenda's next door neighbor had been out on vacation the week that this shooting took place. And when they returned home, something felt off. It felt like someone had been in their home, and they found that someone had actually been in their attic and been in the bedroom, obviously that led to the attic, because they found 22 caliber bullets and shotgun shells in the attic and in the bedroom that led there. Who had a key to their home? Brenda Andrew. Now, the best thing that the defense had was a letter that James Pavatt had written to Brenda's daughter while he was in prison. The letter said that he had did it alone and Brenda had nothing to do with it, etc., etc. But of course, nobody believed it. To the prosecution and to the jurors, it actually sounded like a letter that Brenda told James to write and probably told him what to write verbatim. Needless to say, Brenda Andrew was also found guilty and sentenced to death. She is currently the only woman on death row in the state of Oklahoma. Her appeal back in 2008 was denied, and no one comes to visit her, not even her children, And that is the story of Brenda and Drew. You know, we always have to finish off with a fragrance. This evening, since this is nighttime skincare, this evening I will be using a beautiful, beautiful skin scent that I love. And this is the Rehab from Crown Perfumes. This is the soft fragrance. I absolutely love this fragrance. This has been getting a little bit of buzz here and there on social media, but this is one that is well worth your money. I think it goes for like $12 if you find it from an actual retailer, but it is bomb performance, bomb scent, perfect for any time, not just nighttime. Let me know if you guys have tried this fragrance. Let me know if you've tried any of those fragrances from Rehab or any of those Middle Eastern. I'm really on a Middle Eastern swing right now. I don't know if you can see behind me, but there's a lot of Middle Eastern fragrances that I've been collecting as of late, and I really, really do love them. But let me know your thoughts on any of those fragrances. If you tried this one particularly, I'd love to hear about it. One other thing that I've been introducing into my skincare routine recently is the Ordinary Multi-Peptide Lash and Brow Serum. Actually, I've really just been trying this out. I'm gonna be trying it out for 8 weeks. I got this actually for free through Influencer, and I'm gonna try this out. Y'all know I ain't got no eyebrows, y'all know I ain't got no lashes, so we'll see if this actually helps at all. But let me know if you've tried this product as well. It's relatively new, but it's been out long enough for y'all to have tried it. So let me know if you've gotten results from that as well. But I would really love to hear your thoughts on the story itself. Y'all know we love to engage down there in those comments as a community. Let me know what you thought of this one. This one felt really, really juicy, and none of these should feel juicy, but there was a lot going on in this case this week, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it below. Finally, before we go, you know we always have to pay the bills, so I want to thank our sponsor, Skillshare. As you guys know, I've recently been doing a lot of, you know, self-help or self-improvement, I guess you would say, and just teaching myself to really enjoy different things and finding new hobbies. And Skillshare is a great resource for that. They have some great content on how to better your skills, whether you're a photographer, whether you are a content creator like myself, or things like self-care, whether you just want to make time for yourself and make it more valuable for you. But I've really been enjoying the classes so far. Skillshare is an awesome platform that really allows you to hone your skills in whatever category it may be. They are always adding new classes, new subjects, so it's a wealth of information. So make sure you guys check out the link below. The first 1,000 people to use my link below will get a free month of Skillshare. That is right, a free month of these amazing courses for you guys to indulge in, whether it be cooking, whether it be videography or photography, whether it be self-care. They have something for each and every one of y'all, so make sure y'all check it out. All right guys, that is it for this installment of Snapped in Skincare, also known as Clean Skin Dirty Deeds. I hope that you guys truly did enjoy this story. Make sure you let me know in those comments down below. Also, if you have not, please make sure you subscribe and like the video as well. And also make sure you hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any new content that comes out. But I greatly appreciate you all. Until next time, it's been fun, it's been real. Love you guys. Bye.